It's time for Measure Twice.
Welcome to Measure Twice. I'm Rob Perugini, along with Chris Kramer from C. Kramer Interiors and Joel Graber from Graber Custom Remodeling. This is the show that helps you envision your home's potential, and you're listening to us on Michiana's News Talk 95.3 MNC. We're brought to you in part by Leatherman Supply. Everything windows, doors, cabinets, and countertops with the showroom now open in Granger next to C. Kramer Interiors. And Hoosier Hardwood Floors, Michiana's trusted and valued experts on hardwood floors. You can visit them at HoosierHardwoodFloors.com. We were just talking about Sedona off air.
Yes.
And it's beautiful.
It is beautiful.
You walk through the red rocks.
Just driving in, it was hard to pay attention to the road because the formations are just spectacular.
Yeah, the driver misses out on that drive because you can't really take in what's around you. It's really pretty amazing.
Yeah.
And they have their own kind of little architecture there, too. You know.
Yes.
What got me about Sedona is you're in the middle of the desert, and there is the desert architecture everywhere. You know, like, what is that called?
Adobe.
Is it Adobe?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. It's not really made of Adobe anymore.
Not anymore.
But it looks like Adobe. But then there's, you know, those 1950s. I don't know if you went into the neighborhoods. There's like 1950s houses, like craftsman houses and stuff there. Like, just because they didn't build, like somebody moved there and they wanted it to look like Iowa or wherever they came from. So it's kind of funny. You go in this neighborhood and it's like, Phoenix is like that too. There's a Wrigley Town in Phoenix where it looks like Chicago. Yeah. Well, you go there and it's like, these houses do not look Southwestern.
Yeah, it's really odd to see something like that.
They stand out.
Yeah.
And I don't know how well they perform in 1,000-degree.
Yeah, right.
Like, the houses that we live in here in the Midwest are that way for a reason.
Purpose-driven, typically.
Yeah. You put them in the desert. Yeah,
it's like you see a Dutch colonial out there, and you're like, wait, what?
Yeah, but they are there.
I know.
They're there. They're just spending a lot more on air conditioning.
Yeah.
Because and the air conditioners are on the roof in Arizona. They're not on the ground. They're up top.
Why not?
Well, there's probably some reason for it.
Oh, I would think so.
But if you're putting an air conditioner on the roof, Joel, you have to go out of your way to make sure that that's not going to leak, right? I mean,
it evaporates.
Yeah, exactly.
Sure.
In Arizona, it's not a big deal, right?
I'm assuming they put them there because it's really hot on the ground. You know, like that radiant.
It's really hot on a roof.
Yeah, but it doesn't. It is, but it doesn't stay hot. Like in Arizona, you walk around and there's heat coming at you both ways, and it's I don't know. I don't know.
I'm sure there's a reason behind it,
but here it's on the ground, and this by the way, in this time of year, make sure your leaves aren't going into that thing, because that's no reason to have to get a giant service bill.
Yeah.
Just keep the stuff away from it.
Oh.
You know what I'm talking about, like the fan and all that stuff. This is a little, public service announcement.
There you go. Friendly tip.
But we're not talking about air conditioning this time of year.
What are we talking about?
Who knows? It's just we're just going to chat. Just a fireside chat today.
Fireside chat?
No. I was looking at a deck that was built recently, and it dawned on me that when you have a professional build something, the foundational stuff is way different. The foundation, the basis of what you're doing is way different than you would see on a lot of DIY. You're making a face, but
no. I'm just listening.
Yeah, what I'm saying is, like, if you DIY building a deck, like if you look online, you do not see the formation or the foundation or the base of that deck, and I'm just picking deck. It was true across the board. Is fundamentally different than what a professional is going to do.
That goes beyond a deck.
That's what I was saying. It just dawned on me looking at this deck, and I was like, wow, and this isn't a giant sales pitch to have people build stuff for you or whatever, but certain things should not be handled on your own. Right. And it really starts at that the start, the frame,
It doesn't matter if it's a foundation. It doesn't matter if it's doing your own hardwood floors. It doesn't matter. A professional, they know the tricks of the trade, and they just know how to get it to where it's beautiful. Whereas if I try to do it myself, my example is I just had my floors refinished, and Hoosier Hardwood did them. They're stunning. If I did it, you could tell I did it. You'd be able to tell I did it.
You'd have a floor.
I'd have a floor, and it'd be finished.
And it wouldn't just be the finish that would. It's the stuff that goes in, even just in getting it down appropriately, so that it will last that lifetime that it should last. It's
amazing. I mean, it's absolutely amazing. It's very time consuming. I mean, well,
you got to figure if it's time consuming for Hoosier Hardwood floors, how time consuming would it be for somebody that doesn't do it every day of their life?
Yeah, because they had to custom mill new lumber to mix with old lumber, and it's seamless. You can't. Now that they'll be finished today. You cannot tell where they put the new versus where the old was.
When I was thinking about the topic for the show, we were when I was going over it, I was putting the cosmetic stuff at the end, right? But you make a good point. You could start with what is this going to look like and work backwards, because ultimately you don't want you don't want something in your house to look like it's not finished,
or not finished well,
or not finished well. Either look like it's really not finished, or look like it's not finished well.
Mm-hmm.
And I was talking to somebody yesterday, and they were talking about a railing and having like a raw edge, like no raw edges. Like when you're done with a project, there should be no raw edge. And Joel, you'll probably explain it better. What do I mean by raw edge?
So you're talking about like if you have to cut something down,
yeah,
it can't be unfinished.
Right. And I'm not talking about like the live edge. I'm not talking about like the furniture. I'm talking about if you're doing a railing, there shouldn't be a...
It's everything that you see is finished. What's going to hold up better?
Right, because why is it going to hold up better? And what's the...
Typically the way the finish is what protects it typically. So if you take part of your finish off, you've lost some of that protection.
It's exposed, is that what you're saying? Especially for exterior.
And it just doesn't look right.
It just doesn't look right. It doesn't look done.
Finished.
Right.
It doesn't look finished.
Have you ever sat in a room that, like when you're moving into a new house and stuff isn't put away, it's not finished, and it's like you just can't relax. Like I think all that stuff adds up. But cosmetically, that shows up when a professional leaves. Generally, it looks like they're not coming back. That's
right.
To put it. It's just the nature of things. But I don't think when people DIY, they go all the way through the finished product, like to the end. They look at their project as they go and not look at like what it looks like, what it's supposed to look
like.
Maybe
generally speaking, yeah.
Yeah,
they won't have that end goal like this is what it is supposed to look like.
Right. Solving problems.
Maybe they don't know what it's supposed to look like.
Right. Well, that's probably it, right?
Until you see something professionally done versus a deal, then you go,
it's got to be true in the design world. Aesthetically, like if
I was thinking the same thing. There's those building blocks like with design that if you don't start with those right, I mean, you can, this is pretty. I'm going to put this in my house. Like, well, that's great, but where and how does it go together? And
because the magazine,
if you don't have an end
right
in mind, but having an end in mind is great, but if you don't know how to start,
well,
you can get in awful big trouble there.
Having the picture from Pinterest this is what it's supposed to look like when we're done. Realistically, that's not exactly how it works because you don't have the exact same space.
Exactly.
Right.
That's the concept. And a professional can look, kind of see how close we can get to that.
Right. Yeah, and it's like taking a picture of a hairstyle and taking it to your stylist and saying, I want this. Well, your hair's not the same. Your face structure's not the same.
Mm-hmm.
So
we're going to need to find this person.
Pinterest is great for inspiration.
Right.
And it's really what it should be used for because, I want this room. Well, that's great. But
let's go see if that house is for sale.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
But honestly, though, the Pinterest photo is part of the foundation. Part of
it's a building block. It's part of the. This is the style I like. So okay, we can take this style and incorporate it into your room. But remember, your room is shaped differently. You have different windows. You have, the architecture is not the same. But we can do this, and this to achieve that photograph.
When we come back, let's talk a little bit about foundations and different concepts of that. When we come back, this is Measure Twice. Welcome back to Measure Twice. I'm Rob Perugini, along with Joel Graber from Graber Custom Remodeling and Chris Kramer from C. Kramer Interiors. This is the show that helps you envision your home's potential. You're listening to us on Michiana's News Talk 95.3 MNC, and we're brought to you in part by Leatherman Supply. Everything windows, doors, cabinets, and countertops with the showroom now open in Granger right next to C. Kramer Interiors and Hoosier Hardwood Floors. Michiana's trusted and valued experts on hardwood floors. You could visit them at HoosierHardwoodFloors.com. Everything's got a foundation. Everything has that, what am I searching for the word here, that entity that is built from. I won't call it necessarily the start because we've talked enough in this room about the start is the plan. That's the start. But when you get to the building, the foundation, I wanted to talk about some things that have foundations that we may not think about, because the easy thing to talk about is a deck. It's got a foundation. It's got posts and support and stuff like that. And even a house has a foundation. It's pretty evident. I mean, at your mind's eye, you can picture the foundation. That's not necessarily anything new, unless there's some sort of innovation in foundations that in the past 5 years that have changed things. I don't think anything brand new's out in 5 years.
No,
I don't.
Anything that would be like
groundbreaking or,
a floating house.
Yeah.
Well,
they call
that's
that,
the future.
Modular.
Yeah. But your floor, you brought up floor, and you kind of like, I was going to bring that up, but I wanted to bring it up this segment, so that's why.
But sorry, I jumped ahead.
But your floor has its own little foundation, has its own base.
Yeah. And that's why it had to come out.
That's right. That's right. In your case, yeah, it didn't really have
It was there. Just wasn't.
It was hanging on by the thread.
It wasn't as strong as it used to be.
Well, I mean, age.
Like me. I'm not as strong as I used to be.
You got a good foundation.
Yeah, I do, baby.
Whoa, you hear that?
That's
velvety
baby.
Tone come out of there?
Yeah.
Mel Torme, where have you been? You didn't think you could have gone all year and not heard the word Mel Torme?
That's funny.
I know, right?
The Velvet Fog.
I know, but nobody else knows who he is. Do you know?
You know who Mel? You do? I can't think of what he sings.
I can't either.
I can't. He's probably got a famous song. But
I haven't heard about that name in eons.
Mel Torme.
I think the last time I heard the name was one of you guys brought him up.
Probably. Probably. He's the Mel Torme of
Jerry Lewis Telethon. I don't know.
Well, we're talking about foundations. And for floors, what changes? Like if you have a hardwood floor, what's the foundation of a good hardwood floor?
That was
the structure for your floors are typically pretty much the same.
From floor to floor?
Yeah, you're going to have your framing and your sheeting material, your subfloor, and then depending on what the floor is going in, then they have their own set of specifics for underlay or whatever like that.
What about a slab?
Then you have issues. There's actually options for if you want a hardwood floor, you can put down. There's an OSB with a backer on it that you can put down. So you could put a hardwood floor, or you go with the engineered.
So if you're building
Go
like
down.
a house that, like a barndominium, my favorite house in the whole world, but about barndominiums are generally built on slabs.
Yes.
So you can still have a hardwood floor in that home.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the thing with barndominiums is, since you're doing the slab, and we've talked about this before, the best source of heat for that is the floor heat that's in the concrete. So if you've got floor heat, you've got to be careful with your wood, because that can create the more expansion contraction. So you'd probably go with an engineered, which is fine.
You can run heating through an engineered floor.
Yeah, you can run engineered over, because it's not going to move like your natural 3/4 solid.
And still heat the house, I guess is what I meant.
Yes,
so like
yeah.
you put it down,
Yeah.
but you're not interrupting the heat.
No, absolutely
Okay,
not.
that's
definitely the way to go if you're doing that.
But if you have a slab, it's a different.
That's a totally different structure.
It is.
It
It's
is.
totally different.
The foundation's different.
So you have
And
to.
you have to make sure it's level.
That's the trick there, because a lot of times your flat work is not super flat.
Flat work, by the way, is what you call.
Your concrete, that would be a floor.
Yeah, I learned that a few weeks ago. I didn't know what we were talking about. Like flat work.
Driveways, garage floors, basement floors.
That's flat work.
That's your flat work. Your foundation is the concrete walls.
And it's not always level.
It rarely is level.
It's rarely. Why is that? What factors go into that?
Typically it's hand finished, and it's getting pulled out, bull floated, and it's just not it. It doesn't have to be perfectly flat. Typically, a lot of times you're running it. You want it sloped to a drain or away from doors, things like that. So you're not. The goal is normally not to have it flat.
You're right. The water's got to go somewhere. Is that what you're right? But it doesn't lend itself.
But if you're
to,
doing a barndominium where that's your floor, then you want it a lot closer to flat.
So if you were going to put down a good foundation on a slab, whether it's a barndominium or you're building, you just have a slab floor, that foundation levels the floor. Then is that what you're saying? Like you put that. I'm saying foundation. You put the subfloor on there, and it's supposed to.
It can help, yeah.
And then make it as.
It'll take a lot of that out, because typically what is it? Waves, maybe some waves in it or something, because that's just not a perfect science. It's an art, really.
Right.
You ever have to use leveling compound?
There has been times.
And how does that work? Do you just pour it down and it levels itself?
There is self-leveler, yeah.
Is that
it mixes? It's a concrete. It's a concrete mix, but it mixes up like water, and it will find the low areas. You can pull it out, and then so it's self-leveling.
right?
Or, depending on what it is, something that you have to float out with a trowel that you can mix up.
Right. Which enters in the art part again, right? Because that's self-leveling sounds like sometimes it sounds too good to be true. I don't know what the ins and outs.
No, it's
of
great.
it are.
It's great for like a slab. It's great for that.
That's wavy because
then you don't have to worry. Because typically with a slab, you're not worried too much about where it's going to flow to. It's not going to flow anywhere. If you're on a OSB or some sort of plywood or something substrate, you have to make sure all the joints are covered, and anywhere anywhere it could flow to, you have to block off to make sure it's not
Right.
You're not just pouring it down your vents.
Right, and then that's true. You would just pour it. It would level into the basement.
Yeah.
Or wherever that vent
Your
goes.
HVAC.
Yeah.
HVAC.
Yeah, your AC unit will be. But Chris, when you're at when you're looking at like a floor, can you now tell, like, is it hard to tell when it doesn't have a good subfloor? Can you tell by looking at it?
Subfloor or
Well, not
the framing or
framing and
the
underneath of the structure of the floor. Can you see it? Will it have waves if there's?
It depends, I think.
Well, so I mean, in an old house, you're probably going to have waves because stuff is it's going to move.
Right.
That doesn't necessarily mean it's a bad foundation. If it's bouncy, that tells you there's probably not enough there because it's deflecting. That's called deflection, and it's deflecting too much.
And you're like you mean when you walk on the floor, the whole floor, or just a part of the floor?
The floor. I mean, part. Sometimes it's part. I don't know, Chris. How was yours? Was it the whole floor or
the whole floor? In the dining room was the worst. You walk on it and everything shook.
Right.
I mean, literally.
Oh, like everybody. It was like Jurassic Park.
Yeah.
Type like.
Yeah.
And Chris doesn't walk heavy.
He looks like a cat. He's like a cat.
And you could feel it move up and down. If you stood there and it just kind of bounced on it, you could feel it.
The grandkids used it because he didn't have a trampoline.
Yes,
it was the most fun room in the house.
Yeah.
And
then it sloped. I mean, there was significant.
So there are tells that okay, you have issues.
So your floor did your floor look okay though?
Yeah, as far as the wood.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, you could definitely see that it was sloping.
Right.
As much as 2 inches.
So there could be like a cosmetic cover up of a problem.
I wouldn't
just
say
look at it.
It wasn't. There was nothing cosmetic about.
Yeah, you would look at it. It would
looked
be
fine.
It looked fine.
Yeah,
right, that's where I was going.
Other than you could see it sloping, and then you could stand on one corner, and it was like you could tell there was nothing underneath because it had deteriorated.
So that's the thing about what's behind the scenes is really what's super important. When we come back, let's dive into the foundations maybe of design. This is Measure Twice. Welcome back to Measure Twice. I'm Rob Perugini along with Chris Kramer from C. Kramer Interiors and Joel Graber from Graber Custom Remodeling. This is the show that helps you envision your home's potential. And we're brought to you in part by Leatherman Supply. Everything windows, doors, cabinets, and countertops with the showroom now open in Granger next to C. Kramer Interiors. Stop by, look around. And Hoosier Hardwood Floors, Michiana's trusted and valued experts on hardwood floors. You can visit them at HoosierHardwoodFloors.com. And, of course, you're listening to us on Michiana's News Talk, 95.3 MNC. We're talking about the foundations. And I'm not talking about that 60s Motown group. The Foundation. Oh, wait. Is that the Temptations?
Temptations. Foundations? I don't think that was a
thing,
group.
right?
You know what, though? It could be.
Yeah,
we could make one of those knockoff movies about a fictitious Motown band called the Foundations, and it would probably go over. And people would be like, "Oh, have you heard the Foundations?
I love them.
Love that."
That could have been a Beach Boys song. Good foundations instead of vibrations. Good foundation.
Good foundation. You're not getting all those vibrations.
That's true.
Oh my goodness! Wow! Whoa! Let's take this to the market.
Wow!
Whoa!
Way to go! That was a good one.
That was
thanks.
Man, everybody's gonna be singing the Beach Boys now. So if you hear
why
somebody,
wouldn't you be?
What?
The Beach Boys. Why wouldn't you be?
Why wouldn't you? Right? Yeah, they're American treasures. They only spent a few minutes with the Helter Skelter guy. What's his name?
Oh, Charles Manson.
Charles Manson. Only spent an afternoon with him.
And they're still here.
Yeah. And as far as we know,
Yes.
they kept it clean. We're talking about foundations, and we were talking about your floor's foundation, the subfloor, and that has to be good. or else your floor can look great but not be great. Right? That's the key of the foundation. But there's
Lipstick
this
on a pig.
But what we're leaving out are something that you don't really think about foundations. When you think about design, you don't necessarily go, oh, well, there's a foundation to it. There has to be. And I'm not claiming that I know it. I just know there has to be foundations of design. There has to be something the aesthetic is built on, something that, right? And I don't know. I don't even, I need to stop talking is what I need to do because I don't know really. What are the foundations that you use, Chris, when you're thinking about design?
The principles of design?
Yeah, like that maybe. Maybe there's too many to go over, but
but certainly there's a foundation within
right.
these principles.
But I think there's a foundation for everything.
Right.
Whether it's design or building or remodeling or life.
Right.
Yeah, there are foundations.
Yeah, if you have a subject, there's a foundation to it. But specifically talking about design, it's like, what are some foundations that you use, some things that in everyday practice, I know every job's different, but
every job is different. But
so if you're looking at, let's say, a kitchen, what's your foundation of designing a kitchen? What's the foundation?
You come starting out with a plan for the kitchen.
Right.
That's your foundation. That's where you build from.
And then, but in the room, what's the anchor of the room? What has to be
the kitchen?
I knew I was going to get something. I was trying to prepare. No,
I mean, you literally have to start with a plan, a spatial plan.
Is the foundation of a good design of the room having starting with countertops, or does it start with cabinets?
That stuff comes later.
Right.
You've got to get the layouts right first.
So layout is foundation.
So your plan. So what's the foundation of your plan? What they want and the space.
Yeah. What they want and what they want.
You deal with the architectural cues that are already there. If it's a remodel,
sometimes.
Right. And you build.
Sometimes you look at it and go, oh wait, if we take that wall out, or if we extend this, we can,
get you what you want.
We can get you what you want. Maybe we have to move there's a pantry. Maybe we need to move that pantry over here so that we can extend the wall so you have a more functional kitchen.
So is it one of the keys then the amount of space you have, or is it the shape of space that you have?
All of the above.
Yeah.
I know, really. I mean, it's okay, we've got here's a 10 by 12 room, and so we can't expand beyond that. Then you have to kind of work within that. That's your perimeter that you have to work within.
And then you build, once you make your plan is built on, do you start with the colors of the walls and work inward? Do you start with furniture and work outward?
It depends on what we're doing. I mean, it depends on the space. So, for example, I mean, if I'm looking at, I don't know, a living room or whatever,
right.
It still starts with, okay, we've got to measure, put this room on plan so that we can see what will fit, what goes where. Oh, we've got, we have to look at where the traffic patterns, how many openings there are.
So there's foundational elements, right? Like how many doors are in this room?
What's the ceiling height? What, what direction does this room face?
Now, if you're altering traffic pattern, you have to identify that early. If you're changing a traffic pattern, or if a pattern's going to change because of.
Well, if you're going to do space planning and reconfigure a space, I always try to figure out, okay, if I move this wall, what's that going to do for traffic flow? What's this going to do for a sight line? Okay, you're coming through the front door, but if I move this wall, my sight line is going to be off. So do I really want to do that?
Right.
So there's a lot of putting yourself into a space for functionality.
Doesn't it sound like a lot of things converge in design? It sounds like a lot of things converge. Like it's how do you know what to do first? Because it sounds like they're all a tie. Like it's all like all of these things have to get done, and they're all related. It is a very complex. It's more complex than you would think.
Yeah.
It is. I mean, the end result is a pretty room, but to get to that pretty room, there's all these things you have to do to make sure you can achieve that look.
A pretty room that you can actually use.
Yes. Right,
Yes.
right. Because a pretty room that you don't go in doesn't even
Or
matter.
that's not functional.
Yeah.
Doesn't make sense.
Right. So you're saying, if you have, let's say, we were joking about it, but you have a picture from Pinterest, you're working from that picture.
If someone comes in and says, I want this exact room,
Right.
we're not going to probably not going to be able to achieve it exactly that way because your room may not be shaped that way.
Right.
And it may not face face another whole different direction. It may face south and you get all day long sunlight. It may face, you've got a fireplace over here. There's none over here.
Right. So it sounds like light is foundational too.
Because if you have a north facing room, you don't get direct sunlight
Ever. Right. Right. It's just not.
So it's a darker room.
Right. If you have a darker room, then you don't necessarily want it to be dark colored because
Correct. Correct. There's a lot of things you have to take into account when you're looking at a space.
Light is foundational.
Exactly. Light's critical.
Critical.
Lighting, period, is critical.
Color, then, is foundational, too, because you can't, it has to work with the light in the room, right?
Mm-hmm.
But
and the mood and the feel you're after, so you're
right.
That all plays into it as well.
It sounds to me like if you have lots of windows, light is the most foundational thing. Then,
if you have a lot of windows, you can go darker on your walls.
You have a lot more freedom,
you have a lot
right?
more freedom,
yeah,
flexibility.
It's funny. The less the window, the more you have to worry about.
Yeah, there's light reflection. Paint, if you look at paint, sometimes it'll give you a light reflectancy off of the color you're choosing, so you know how much light will be absorbed and how much will bounce.
Right. So you have,
yeah.
Where do you? That's on the paint.
That's where do you get that? NASA?
Sometimes if you go like the Benjamin Moore site, it'll tell you that
that's interesting.
The reflection.
Yeah.
When did that come about?
Darker colors will absorb light, not bounce it.
So when did that measure come about?
It's been in the last few years because
relatively new.
Yeah, relatively. Before it used to be, here's your color,
and then you'd have to figure out if how much it was gonna reflect.
Oh gosh, back when I was in school, I can't remember what white reflects 85%. I think something like that. I can't remember exactly.
But that's kind of important because you don't want glare.
Well, it's not so much glare; it's just what it does to the brightness of a space.
It's really amazing how much colors next to colors affect both colors.
Oh, well, yeah. I mean, you could, if you've got warm colors, you got cool colors, and they don't all. If mixing warm and cool colors is a little tricky because they don't always complement, and they can fight each other.
And you have to know that before you put it in.
How do you know which ones complement?
How do we know?
Is it a feeling?
It's a feeling. I got that love and feeling.
On that note,
came up with a different song there.
When we come back, we're going to go into some more traditional foundational issues. This is Measure Twice. Welcome back to Measure Twice. I'm Rob Perugini, along with Joel Graber from Graber Custom Remodeling and Chris Kramer from C. Kramer Interiors. This is the show that helps you envision your home's potential, and you're listening to us on Michiana's News Talk 95.3 MNC. We're brought to you in part by Leatherman Supply. Everything windows, doors, cabinets, and countertops, with the showroom now open in Granger, right next to C. Kramer Interiors and Hoosier Hardwood Floors. Michiana's trusted and valued experts on hardwood floors. You can visit them at HoosierHardwoodFloors.com, and you should visit, because a floor is the foundation of the whole house, right? Floors and walls.
Roof.
You got to have those things or you don't have a house.
Right. You don't. Right.
And you need the roof to hold up the wall.
And you do need the roof. We don't think about the roof as foundational in the house.
Stuff together.
But if you have an ugly roof, right?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
It's over. I don't care what kind of.
Mm-hmm.
It's bad. It's like my wife would say. It's like having bad shoes, man. Don't put a suit on and put crappy shoes on it.
You can't unsee a bad roof.
Right.
It's
And-
like out there all the time. Advertising.
It is. It's like you can't. Like the garage door is foundational. We know that now that they face the street. Is that going away though? I always ask that.
What? Garage doors facing the street?
Yeah.
No.
Still,
It needs to.
I agree. I walk in a neighborhood that still had the houses that had the garages as part of the facade. Like you had to like pull around to get into the garage. And I just think that that's the way it's supposed to be. I
think sometimes the lot sizes don't accommodate that.
I agree. That's probably why that happened, because you wanted more. You could get more house if you had the garage face the street.
And when you don't have the width on city lots a lot of times. So.
Right. I get it. It came about it naturally. It's just I think it looks better. Like you have more.
Oh, I agree.
Nothing says I don't care to meet anybody in my neighborhood like a garage door front and center.
You're right. I agree. Although I was waiting for somebody yesterday, and I have like the camp chairs just handy in the garage. I don't really hang out in my garage. Like that's not. But I was
you don't
yesterday.
Have the couch out there?
No, I don't. It's not like my man cave, you know. And when you're sitting out there, it is inviting. People were like, "Oh, hey," you know, like just because you're out. And I kind of like that, but it's still your garage. I don't know. Still like, I don't know. It's not foundational to me in having company. I don't know.
Depends on your company.
I was looking at a house plan online yesterday, and I was absolutely blown away by it because it was literally
all garage.
It was all
garage door.
It was all in the garage.
Coming out, front door, set back, one window over the garage.
I'm trying to wait.
That was it.
That was it. That was the front.
Say that again. A garage, like a 2-car.
You have here's the width of the house, one door, entry door,
like to the left of the garage.
The garage comes out and the garage door. That's it.
No windows.
One window over the garage.
It's doubling as a Jehovah's Witness.
It had no windows in the front. There were no side lights on the. But it was.
That sounds pretty horrendous.
It sounds
looked like a box.
It sounds like a lake house type style because you have a thin, narrow. Like the narrow.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but still on lake houses, you're going to have a lot. You're going to have windows. It's designed to be more.
There was
inviting.
no character. It had absolutely zero. It was like, what the heck?
So I mean, I can understand that. I said lake. Well, lake, but hear me out. Like we're at the beach, you have a lot of weird. Like when you're describing that.
Because of the lots.
Yeah, because the lot. Like if your lot faces the ocean, if you're oceanfront, you've never seen uglier streets than ocean-facing houses because when you walk around to the beach side, it looks magnificent.
Right.
But the utility side is the street side there, not the, like the backyard is the utility side of a house in a normal neighborhood. But if this was like in a normal neighborhood, that would be definitely weird. But what I was saying is I could just understand it if there was a lake on the other side, and that's where all your windows were, and that's where, it was less.
So that's so uninviting.
It is uninviting.
It was like, don't come here.
It made me think.
You also have to have a white Econo line with no windows.
Oh, you say yeah. It is a little funeral homey, right?
I'm trying to see if I can find it, but it was so cold. It was like, why?
Somebody really just cares about utility. That point, you may as well have like a stainless steel door.
Yeah.
How expensive would that be?
Oh, boy.
A stainless steel.
Cold.
It would be.
It'd be so cold.
And wow,
Terrible.
I don't know what the application of that would be. A ship.
There is none.
Yeah. if you're on a houseboat, I guess. Airstream house. There's probably an Airstream house somewhere.
That'd be pretty cool.
You'd have a stainless steel door, though.
Yeah, that's true.
How is that? They're kind of inviting. I don't know. I don't want to. Talk them up too much. They're not a sponsor.
Yeah.
But yet, but that is so. The foundation of your house's design, from the exterior point of view, that's kind of where I was going. It might, in a weird way, just for the look. I'm not talking about building the house. Obviously, the foundation of the house is the foundation of the house, right? But from a look, the foundation of your house, to me, is either your windows or your roof. Like, you start there. Either one of those.
Windows or your roof.
Yeah, from when you're outside looking in, like the foundation of the look of the house, to me, starts with the windows and the roof.
Oh, really? It does?
To me. But what's your counterpoint, Chris? What's the correct way to look at it?
When I'm looking at a house?
Yeah.
What appeals? Where do my eyes go?
Well, the foundation.
The foundation of it? I mean, if I'm looking at like the curb appeal of the house or the street view of the house,
right?
Detail.
Stands
out to me, like stonework, siding. If there's board and batten or cedar shake, or I'm looking at the aesthetic of the whole thing.
I think what you're saying, I don't know that it's foundational, because if the only time you really think about the roof or the windows is if they're ugly.
Yeah, if they're not right.
So that's not necessarily the foundation.
But to me, that's the very definition of the foundation. You only know you have a bad foundation. Can I see it? Oh my! Yeah, it's all garage. Chris just showed us a picture of it, and it literally looks like it looks like a barn, like a garage.
It looks like somebody's shed.
Yeah.
With the garage door.
It's a larger shed.
They should put a sign over it that says like Joe's Garage or something. But taking appointments now.
To me, when we're planning a house, or we're building or working with a builder or a client on the home, and we're doing the exterior finish selections, we're tying all of those elements: the roof, the windows, the siding, all of that gets tied together, because you don't want your focus shouldn't be the roof.
Thanks for listening. This has been Measure Twice.
Podcasts by Federated Media.